Hello, my friends, and welcome to this bonus episode of Time to Level Up, where I have the pleasure and honor to have a conversation with my client, Jessie. So as you listen to this conversation, I want you to notice that when she first started to engage in coaching, it was like week 1 of COVID, literally week 1, like March of 2020. And she could have thought that it was the most horrible time to start, but she talks about how she felt it was the best time because even though the world might have been moving at a snail's pace, she was still in her head stressed because she was always researching how to make her business and herself better, how to figure out billing and marketing. And she wasn't seeing a ton of clients, but she still had a lot on her plate and she felt like her head was spinning. It was like she describes it as a pinball machine. So she had all these thoughts and she had nowhere to go with them. And that is when she decided to reach out and engage in coaching. And she knew that she had to do it for her own sanity, also for her business, but for her personal life too. She just needed it. And she recognized that her husband during COVID, he was still working with his team, even though it was virtual, but she doesn't have a team. So she needed someone to bounce things off of. And she knew she needed someone to help her think outside the box because her thinking had become super narrowed and she needed that big picture. So she and I started working together. So sit back, enjoy this conversation. I love working with her and we do have a lot in common in terms of our background, which was kind of fun too. Listen in. You're listening to the Time to Level Up podcast. I'm your host, business life coach, Andrea Liebross. I help women in business commit to their own growth personally and professionally. Each week, I'll bring you strategies to help you think clearly, gain confidence, make your time productive, turn every obstacle into an opportunity, and finally overcome the overwhelm so that you can make money and manage life. Let's create a plan so you have a profitable business, successful career, and best of all, live with unapologetic ambition. Are you ready to drop the drama and figure out the how in order to reach your goals? You're in the right place. It's time to level up. Let's do this. Okay, I am thrilled today to have with me Jessie Hillock, who, strangely enough, is in a profession that I used to be in. So she is a speech language pathologist, but she is way more than that. She's the owner and founder of the Memory Compass. And I am thrilled to have her today because I want you to know her story. I also want you to know what she does because it's pretty cool. And it's something that probably all of us may need either as the adult child or perhaps even the senior when we get to that stage in our lives. So, Jessie, happy you're here.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you for having me.
You are welcome. So why don't you just start and tell us how you got into what you're doing now and how the Memory Compass came to be?
Okay. So my background, I am a speech language pathologist and I worked for 6.5 years in the elder care space. So assisted living, memory care, long-term care, and rehab to home. And a lot of people don't realize this, but if your loved one either admits to a skilled nursing facility for rehab or if they admit there to live there as a resident, if they demonstrate any form of confusion, difficulty with following directions, difficulty with medication management, financial management, safety issues, they always get referred to a speech language pathologist. And that's never really what anybody thinks that our specialty is. But in that setting, we are very well versed in helping people with that cognitive communication breakdown in confusion of day to day. And when I was in that space, oftentimes I had heard that, my loved one has this diagnosis, they received a memory impairment diagnosis, but we haven't heard from the neurologist in a year. Nobody has really broken down what does it mean, mild stage or moderate stage or late stage. And I was not seeing people until they were in that crisis situation of needing, rehab to home because maybe they fell and broke their hip, or needing that transition of increased level of care. And I wanted to get out into the community and provide the same services I was providing in skilled nursing, but to those people who were living in their homes, to try to help families, help their loved one age in place and live at home as long as possible. And I also just felt like there was a missing piece of that education to family members of, okay, well, what does mid or late stage mean? Can we break it down into layman's terms? Let's go over the neurology reports. Let's break this down. Let's break this down. And why are they not, showering anymore, or making their meals anymore? Or why are they having more falls? Or why are they not remembering to do this or that? And being able to educate families on how they maybe should approach their loved one differently, or, adapt the environment differently. And that is how the Memory Compass was born. So right now, I am the only private practitioner in Indiana that has a specific focus on just the dementia population.
That is amazing and so needed. And I know that just because if anyone's listening, I have a master's in speech pathology and I did practice for a while. So all of this makes lots of sense to me. So great stuff. All right. So let's talk about this business that you created, because you really went from being, I don't know, how do we say this? Like on the ground floor into being you're a provider still. How do you explain how you transitioned from kind of one facet to another?
So basically, when I was in skilled nursing, a schedule was printed off for me every day that I did not decide who I was seeing, or, when I was seeing them, or how many people I was seeing at the same time. And I would just get my schedule. I would see my patients and I would go home. Mm-hmm. And in speech pathology, when you go for your undergrad and your grad degree, nobody ever teaches you about business, about like marketing. When it comes to marketing, there's a lot of different networking events, but they send somebody else from a skilled nursing facility. They never send the therapist. So I had no idea how to market myself. I had no idea how to do just the business operation flow from day to day, how to put systems in place. I knew I had something that I wanted to create, and I knew that it was valuable, but I just didn't really know where to go after having that idea.
So did you quit on day one? On Monday you quit, and on Wednesday you decided to put your shingle up for the Memory Compass, or how did that work? How did that transition go?
No, the transition is, so basically I had my son, he's 2.5 now, and I went to very part-time. And there are a lot of things that happened in the senior care space where money, the way things were paid for with insurance, became a little bit different. So I was given the option of either going back to full-time or going as an as needed employee. So just working every now and then as needed. And at that time, I had already filed for the LLC because I knew that I wanted to start something. I just didn't really know what I wanted it to be. But when that happened, the opportunity to go full-time or to step down to just as needed, that was really my kick that I needed, because I probably would have just stayed where I was and just, see patients every now and again, because that was easy, but that wasn't what I wanted to do. So I needed that swift kick. But even though I had that swift kick, I didn't do anything with it other than coaching 2 families from the time period of October to January. So October of 2019 to January of 2020, I just sat on my idea and I didn't do anything with it.
Why do you think you just sat on it? Like, let's just go back to that little space. What do you think? So those 4 months, you just sat on it.
Yeah. For one, I became credentialed as an insurance provider, but it absolutely terrified me because, again, working in skilled nursing, you would just see your patient and then everything was done for you. I didn't know anything about billing. And I think it was the fear of the unknown, the fear of putting myself out there. And also, I had worked for so long, I never had a holiday off. I would have one day off and that would be it. And that's how it was for 6.5 years. And so I felt like I just needed to take that time to collect myself, gain some just creative energy, creative space, and then hit the ground running. But I didn't hit the ground running.
Okay.
Until,
was it like a Fred Flintstone kind of run? Like
yes,
going nowhere? Okay.
Yes. It was like, I have all these ideas, but like I said, I like, how do I set up Square? Like how do I take electronic payments? I don't know how to do this. Or how do I start like an email list chain? Or I knew nothing. How do I start a website? So I just needed to take that time and figure out all of the steps. But I also needed someone to give me a little tough love push.
Okay. Yes. And how did that happen?
That happened by meeting you.
Okay. Love that. Tough love push. That's a good one.
Yes, because like I said, I was just on my own. And also just being in private practice, there are other private practitioners in Indiana, but they all focus on pediatrics. Not very many focus on adults. And so I'm really like this lone ranger out there trying to figure this out on my own. So there wasn't anyone to even talk about, the struggles of day to day with. So the beginning of January, I saw 3 patients on my own, Medicare beneficiaries, and then I did see a couple family coaching sessions, but I still just felt like I wasn't moving forward the way that I wanted to. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, there was a pandemic.
There was a pandemic. So I think you and I might have met in January, actually.
Yes, we did.
We met at a networking event. Yes. And I remember you said something like, I think I need you, but I'm not really sure. And I just have to like figure this out a little bit on my own and get myself rolling. So that was January. So now we roll 60 days later. Oh, it's COVID.
Yes.
Yes. Middle of March.
And and I just knew that some people might have thought that's a horrible time to seek out a business coach. Yep. But I thought that was honestly the best time, because here I was, even though things were moving slowly, I was still always stressed because I was always researching like billing, marketing, Medicare, all of that. So even though I wasn't seeing a ton of clients, I still had a lot on my plate. But I felt like my head was kind of a pinball, like in a pinball machine. And I had all these thoughts going everywhere and I didn't know what to do with them. Mm-hmm. And that's when Andrea and I had our conversation about like what coaching would look like. And I knew that I had to do that, like for my sanity, but also for my business, for my personal and professional. I just needed that. Like my husband, he works on a team and he gets to vent about things and talk about like creative ideas. And I didn't have anybody to do anything like that with. And I definitely didn't have anybody who could help me think outside the box when my thoughts got very narrowed. Mm-hmm. And that is something that you really helped me with.
2 things I just thought about when you were talking. One is all of that research, right? So you're a researcher. So you were trying to figure things out, as you should be. But I remember having a conversation where I just said, stop researching, start doing something. Stop researching and start doing something. So I think we're human, right? And we all want all that knowledge. And you think we always can learn more and talk to more people, like more knowledge, but you have to just stop and start doing. And I remember saying to you, stop researching and start doing. So that was one thing that just hit me. And then the other thing that came to my mind is we've had multiple conversations about this, but that narrowed thinking, like you didn't know what you didn't know.
Right.
Right. Honestly, but you also, your brain hadn't expanded, talk about like dementia or whatever. Your brain had not expanded to even, could I really do that? Like, what do you mean? Not just have one-off sessions that I get paid for, just one at a time. We've talked about that before too, how to create packages, and people need you more than once, more than 60 minutes. Right. And what if they didn't even want to use any insurance to pay you? Oh my goodness gracious, right? Pay out of pocket. Like that's craziness, right? Yes. So that narrowed thinking was real. It totally was
Yes.
real.
Yeah.
So, okay. So we started working together right around that pandemic, right?
Yes.
Right around March, middle of March. I think if we could probably go back, it was definitely in March. Then kind of what happened? Like, what was the evolution? Where did things go as we started working together?
Well, just like you said, I needed to I needed to have action and stop just sitting on my ideas and put them into play. And so from there, I started making more connections with, other businesses that cater to the 60, businesses that cater to 65 and older, making more
Yep.
connections with, physicians, making more connections with just, and feeling confident in those connections. That's the other thing, is that I needed that coaching from you to help me feel confident, because here I was just, I don't want to say just a therapist, because nobody's just a therapist, but I didn't feel like I had ownership in what I was trying to convey to others about how valuable this service was, because
Mhm.
nobody else was really out there doing this service that I was doing. And so you were giving me tools to feel more confident in, like, this is what I offer people. I help fix a problem. I felt like I was spending so much time trying to figure out people's problems, but I needed to present it more as, I help you fix this problem. This is what
Mhm.
I help you with.
You had the
Um,
solution.
yeah, I
You have the
had the
solution.
solution, but I didn't really know how to market that, package that, and didn't have the confidence to share that with other people. So there was a lot of
Yeah.
like mindset work, a lot of
Uh-huh.
tools that you gave me for changing my mindset and framing my mindset in a different way, that I can do this, I can own this, I can go out there. Even though I'm this lone ranger, I can do it.
Yeah. And you're really, I mean, you're a lone ranger, but now look how many people are coming to you asking you how you did that, right? They're
Right.
asking for your coaching on creating their own business.
Yes. Yes. So now, which I never would have thought, there are other therapists in other states that are asking, how did they not only offer therapy services, covered by insurance, but how do they also offer dementia family coaching services? Because as a therapist, like, we do have so much to offer, but again, we think very narrowly, very narrow
Mhm.
minded, and that the only thing that we can provide someone is one-on-one therapy. And that's not true. We can help families in different ways outside of just traditional insurance.
Yeah. I think going back to speech pathology analogy, like you were just following the treatment plan, follow along. This is what we're
Yes.
tackling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You never thought that there could be A and B and C and D either,
Right.
right?
Right.
Yeah.
Not at
It was a
all.
whole new,
No.
whole way of different way of thinking. So it's been a year actually since we
Mhm.
started working together, pretty almost. So you had, I get what, 2 clients?
I had about three like Medicare clients. I had about two dementia family coaching families that I was helping. And then over the course of the year, when I thought, this is it, why would I ever have started a business, in 2020? This isn't going to go anywhere. Nobody's going to find out about me, because obviously people aren't meeting in person. But I actually ended up working with 26 families over the course of, from March to the end of the year. When I thought
Crazy.
I thought that was not going to be possible.
And then, okay, so talk about how did you pivot from the in person to virtual, or what did that look like to you? Because I know you kind of, we had another whole conversation about this.
Yeah.
This is all coming back to me. You're like, what do you
Yeah.
mean? If I can't go see them in person, no one's going to want to talk to me.
Yeah. So
Not true, right?
I
Not
know.
true.
I mean, honestly, the dementia family coaching is such a wonderful, like, virtual is such a wonderful model for dementia family coaching. I thought I was going to need to do all of that in person, like in someone's home, and that's not true. And doing it virtually is actually even more beneficial for the family, because, if they're working during the day, they can schedule out an hour, not have to leave their office, not go home. They might have a sibling also join in on the call that lives in a different state. And, I'm able to provide the education to multiple people at once. So actually, virtual has worked in my favor
Yeah.
when I didn't think that, I thought, oh my gosh, like, this isn't going to go anywhere, but I've worked with families in New York, families in California, other families in the Midwest outside of Indiana, providing the dementia family coaching just on this whole virtual platform. So it's been actually amazing.
You really, well, guess what? You'd only ever delivered services in person before. So
Right.
why go back to the narrow thinking? Why would you have even thought that that would be possible?
Right. I
Right?
didn't.
You didn't
No.
actually. And I remember having a discussion too, thinking you had something about Indiana on your website. And I think we said, I'm like, take that down. You can coach anyone anywhere. It doesn't only
Yes.
have to be here. Right.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. And so like the next hour I put up services provided across the US.
yes. Yes. Okay. So you've got some family coaching going on now. You still have actual patients that you're
Mhm.
treating. You're offering coaching in a way to other therapists who are thinking about doing this type of
Yes.
business. What
Yes.
else? What else is happening?
I've been offered the opportunity to train in-home companion care companies about how to, better communicate with their clients who might have a memory impairment. So that's an exciting different avenue that I didn't really think about either.
No, no.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
And then you're a board member now, aren't you?
Oh, yes. Yes. I'm a board member of the Indiana Parkinsons Foundation, and I'm super excited about that. And again, I never would have ever thought that being in, just my therapy office back when I was working in skilled nursing and just seeing my patients every day, I wouldn't have thought within just a year's time I would have people understand the value of what I do to provide the opportunity to be on a board, that, I have other things to offer that I didn't realize that I had in me. So there's been so much growth over the course of this past year.
I think one thing that really changed is I think you've gotten really good at expressing the value, sharing the value you offer
Yeah.
in words that aren't necessarily therapy words, that are, I call them like civilians. Any civilian can understand what you're doing, right? And that was hard in the
Yes.
beginning. I know that was
Yes.
definitely hard in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing. I had that very clinical mindset where all
Yep.
the words in my head were so clinical that I was having a hard time breaking them down for others to see the value in what I was providing. And that's something that you helped me with as well.
So cool. So the work that you've done, the work that we did together, but the work that you've done on yourself over the past year in your business, how has that trickled into other parts of your life? Have you seen it shown up in different areas too, like with relationships and organization? And how else has it shown up?
Yeah, well, you have to be organized when it comes to owning your own business. And that was something that I have never been good at. It's like ever since I was younger, I was never good at organization, which is very odd because I'm a type A personality. So you'd think that I would be a very organized person. But I have had to put systems in place for the business. And then also, of course, systems in place for our home and just the flow of home life, because I've had to learn to set boundaries. The whole point of one of the main points of going out on my own is that I wanted to be in control of my own schedule. I didn't want I didn't want that corporate life where somebody was telling me when I had to come in, or like I couldn't, I had to work the holidays or couldn't take vacation. I had to put it in 6 months in advance. Like I didn't want that for myself anymore. But I've also had to learn, where do I set that boundary, that healthy boundary of, when you're in business, your brain never shuts off. It's always thinking about the next thing. So, putting in organization systems into my business, it's been vital for me to also transfer those into my personal life with my 2.5-year-old son, my husband's working from home, just like I'm sure everyone else's husbands are as well. So, we share the same space. We did, of course, over the course of the pandemic, we bought a house, because why wouldn't we add that to it too?
Right.
Why wouldn't we add, looking for a house in the pandemic, but
sold and bought a house. Like you did both.
Yes. Sold and bought, all through Facebook.
Imagine that.
Yeah. So, just trying to organize renovations being done
Yes.
and having a business and having a 2.5-year-old and being a wife. But it has really helped me. Your coaching has not just helped my personal or my professional life. It's also helped put systems in place for my personal life as well.
Mm-hmm. I remember we did spend a few sessions not talking at all about business, but talking about
Right.
managing, moving and buyers and sellers. And I remember there was some
Yes.
fiasco that happened in there,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
But dealing with family members, now it's all coming back to
Yes.
me. Yes, right. So
Yes.
so I
Yeah.
think a lot of what my clients find is that the tools, both the mindset and then the truly the tools that we talk about through coaching are applicable to all areas of life. And no one really thinks about that when they enter into it, right? That
Right.
you were kind of, okay, help me figure out how to make this business happen.
Yes.
But in the
Yeah.
course of all that, you had to make all these other parts of your life happen too.
I remember having a session specifically in that I had all this business stuff, but you were asking about my personal life. And then you're like, wait, we need to apply the same mindset strategies and tools to what's going on right here with this. And it didn't even occur to me, but yes, it was perfect. Like it was exactly what I needed. And I didn't think that the two would overlap.
Yeah. It's crazy how that happens. And I find that in my own brain sometimes, in my own life, I have to pause and think, okay, what can I use from business to help me personally? Vice versa. It's all the same thing. So, okay, tell me, what kind of advice would you give someone who was starting their own business? If you had to give them one piece of advice, what would you tell them in their very early days? What should they think or do, or what would your advice be to them?
Actually, there are several therapists reaching out to me about this.
Oh,
And
look at that.
I tell them you should have a business coach. Like you should. I mean, there's no question. And I can't tell you how many of them have said a business coach, because again, we're in that therapy mindset. We don't think of doing anything outside of our just one-on-one,
Mm-hmm.
seeing our clients and going. But it's definitely that if you're going out on your own, you have to have somebody else to help you through your thought process and give you that kind of accountability to stay on track. That's the thing. It's so easy to say you're going to do something, but if you don't have somebody the next week or the next month to check in with, it's so easy to just not do whatever you say you're going to do. And it's so easy to not move forward and not make connections. And I really think that the investment in a business coach is one of the best investments that you can make for yourself as, an entrepreneur.
I would agree. I have coaches too, right? Coaches need coaches. So it's so
Yes.
true. But you have a really good point in that a lot of times when I'm coaching someone who has not really had any experience in the business world, it doesn't even occur to them that that would be a valuable asset to have because they're so focused on delivering their particular service. Like that's where
Right.
their mind is. You wanted to help patients and families. The whole business part of it kind of gets lost in the shuffle
Right.
almost until it's too late, or it's getting to the point of too late. And you realize that piece of this is getting out of control, or
Right.
you need more control in it.
Right. So even though there are now therapists that are coming to me to ask, how do you start something like this? And I'm coaching them through that. I know the therapist role, but I still believe that they should have a business coach that is not a therapist.
Yeah, I
I-
completely,
yeah.
I see that. I totally see that. So what are your goals for 2021? What is this? Do they look different than 2020?
They do. So my goals for 2021 are really more about the dementia family coaching. I just feel that so many families could really benefit from having a dementia family coach on their team navigating, the transition of care, increased care for their loved one. So my goal is to really reach more families in 2021 with
Okay.
that. And then my other goal is also to expand on helping other therapists realize that they have more in them than just the one-on-one therapy, that you have more inside of you than you think you do, and that you have it in you to go out on your own. And you have so many qualities, but it's just figuring out, how you're going to do that. That's like it's one of my passions that I actually didn't think, because I kind of had that imposter syndrome, like, well, here I've only been in business for really a year, but like a year and a half, we'll say. So why should I be teaching other people how to do something like this? But I have really become passionate about it.
It's so interesting because that family coaching piece, well, the coaching in general, whether it's other therapists or families, that wasn't really on your radar. It wasn't, it was on your, actually, let's say it was on your radar, but it wasn't flashing.
People told me that I couldn't do it because it wasn't covered by insurance. So people wouldn't want to have that service. And then I wouldn't be able to have a business built off of that.
And you spent a lot of time researching that. I remember this. I was like, people will pay you. Don't worry about, but insurance won't cover it. People will pay you. But it's right? That was
Yeah. And when people understand the value of somebody walking that journey with them, you pay for things in life that are going to make things easier for you. Like that, so when you see the value of it and you see that it's worth it, then you will invest in yourself, just like I'm investing in Andrea. I'm investing in that for myself because I see the value in doing that for myself. So that's the same with the coaching.
It is.
Family coaching.
It is so true. Okay. So to wrap up, I always love to ask this. And the reason I ask this is I have a client, Julie, who sent me, once we kind of completed working together, she sent me a whole Microsoft Word document of what she called Andrea-isms, of things that like little sayings or things that she thinks about. She's like, ooh, Andrea would do this, or whatever pops into her head. So I found that so humorous. So I always ask, and it could change from week to week, but what is one thing that really sticks out, one thought that sticks out in your brain from our working together?
Like you said, it changes all the time, but the one that I'm loving from our recent mastermind session was the strengthen your follow through muscle. And I have it actually in my office. Like I taped it up because it's so true. The strengthen your follow through muscle. And that's, especially as a private practitioner, that's the thing. It's like, I'll kind of let things sit to the side a little bit, but no, I need to follow through with things. So I just love having that reminder right here in front of me.
It's a good one. It's a muscle we don't think about too much, but we need to, right?
Yes.
So this has been so fun. I love doing these. I love having these conversations. So if people out there listening wanted to get in touch with you, what is the best way to do that?
So my website is www.thememorycompass.com. That goes over all of the services provided, but also it's my email is jessie@thememorycompass.com, and that's JESSIE.
Fabulous. Okay. Well, you go forth with all of your services, not just one that, right? I think I counted 5 as we were talking.
Yeah.
5 things that so I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me today.
Of course. Thank you for having me. I appreciate everything that you've helped me with.
Okay, so what did you think of that? That last little piece we talked about, Jessie and I, the follow through muscle. Are you strengthening your follow through muscle? Or do you need to strengthen your follow through muscle? What are you not following through on? I love helping people strengthen that muscle. It's kind of one of those that gets neglected. But when it doesn't work, we all notice it, and it really doesn't feel too great. So I want to invite you to strengthen your follow through muscle and join me for a masterclass, a free masterclass in March, first week of March. In there, we're going to talk about how to stop shoulding. I should do this, which is kind of where Jessie was at, and start committing to your own growth in 3 simple steps. So head over to my website, AndreaLiebross.com/March-masterclass and register for that. And we're also going to talk about in that masterclass how we can continue working together. Jessie met me about 2 months before we started working together. So sometimes it takes a little bit to wrap your head around it. So Start thinking about it now. And all the details for that group coaching program, Committed to Growth, they're on the website too. All right, that's all I have for today. I will see you next week with another podcast and another bonus episode. Have a great day.
Who's your coach? I would be honored to be your coach for a day or even more. If you want to stop feeling overwhelmed and are ready to commit to growing your business, your career, or yourself, join me on March 3rd or 4th for my free masterclass, How to Overcome Overwhelm and Commit to Growth in 3 Simple Steps. Head over to register for this free class at www.andrealiebross.com/March-Masterclass. And while you're there, check out the Committed to Growth Group Coaching Program, where we take all of this learning from the podcast and 10x it so that you can learn to commit to your growth forever and eliminate all of the wavering, the wishy-washy, the little quits, and the figuring it out. We start the next cohort of Committed to Growth on March 18th, but enrollment is open now, so you want to reserve your spot. If you want to talk more about it, book your consult call as part of the enrollment process, and we will figure out if this is a good fit for you. AndreaLiebross.com/group-coaching to find out more. See you in March.